you're getting the stuff in advance, so it pays for that, doesn't tie the city to anything. So this allows it to be built in today's dollars. Infrastructure's in first, which we've always struggled with out here. And everybody, that's not just Herriman, that's the state, everybody. It's just a struggle. This is a way to change that. Growth pays for growth. Existing residents don't have to. They will start building roads out there before residential starts coming. So it'll be a big help.
Welcome to Herrimanology.
The official podcast to keep up with Herriman City.
We'll take you inside the city, explore the latest news and updates, show you how your government operates, and discuss the issues that affect us all. Now, here are your hosts talking all things Herriman on Herrimanology.
All right, welcome to Herrimanology. It is Thursday, December 12th, and just like that, 2 weeks away from Christmas, 3 weeks from the new year. Apologize, by the way, we didn't have Herrimanology last week. I've been sick.
Yeah.
Last week I had no voice, which is kind of hard to do a podcast.
Yes, a little bit.
Trust me, you did not want to listen to that.
Right.
So we didn't do it. Anyway, things happen, so apologize for missing a week. I know some people were a little bummed about that.
Yeah.
We were bummed to miss it too, but here we are. So how are you doing, Mayor Palmer?
Good to be back.
Had a late city council meeting last night, so each of the last two meetings have been the only one in the entire month,
Right.
because of holidays. So had to kind of cram more into one evening to make sure that city business still gets done.
Right.
So let's talk about that really quick. Another important meeting. We had both the last two meetings were pretty consequential.
Yeah.
A lot of really exciting things. First, the master development agreement and some basically tax incentives for the commons at Herriman Towne Center commercial development were approved. What
Right.
can you tell us about that?
So this was just the next step in that process. That development was approved a couple of months ago, and then, the initial steps, anyways. And this was just the final approval of the development agreement, just saying here, this is the layout. This is, the agreements. Every cities there are incentives to bring big retailers in. So we agreed to that for them to go out and entice some of these big retailers. And so that's in place now, so they can go out and hopefully break ground in the spring and entice some big retailers here and bring us some sales tax dollars. So it'll be good. Huge step. It's going to be fantastic. So
We're excited. Long time coming. This has been in the works for a long time, and it still is going to be a while until we see businesses open their doors to
Right.
customers. But there's been a lot of work. We know a lot of people have been like, where are the businesses? Can we get more retail businesses? And this is a huge step in that direction.
yeah, all I can say, it's our turn, and it's going to be good. Yeah.
Another major approval, most of the major approvals with the South Hillside developments were last meeting with the master development agreements. Last night was the approval for the public infrastructure districts for the Panorama and South Hills developments.
Right.
What's a public infrastructure district? What was this approval?
Right. So I think we've talked about them a little bit in the past, but again, so these are a way to finance, to have growth pay for growth, basically. So it's technically a fee that's added on to any property in the existing development. It's not the surrounding development. It's just in that development happening, basically so they can build the infrastructure now. They collect that, they bond against that fee so they can build the infrastructure now, parks, roads. So it's kind of like an HOA fee, except you're getting the stuff in advance. So it pays for that, and the city's doesn't tie the city to anything. We give up our impact fees, which impact fees always lag behind as far as cost. So this allows it to be built in today's dollars. Infrastructure's in first, which we've always struggled with out here. We seem to be, and everybody, that's not just Herriman, that's the state, everybody. It's just a struggle because, costs usually are incurred before you can pay for it. So this is a way to change that. Growth pays for growth. Existing residents don't have to. They're both in place now out there, so they will start building roads out there before residential starts coming. So it'll be a big help.
The public infrastructure district is basically a localized, in this case, a property tax on those properties. And the city council made sure that property owners or prospective buyers for those future homes will be made aware that, hey, you have an extra property tax that nobody else in the city has to pay, but it did help fund all these roads that are here.
Right.
Kind of speaking from a future tense. So they will be made aware of that, and it is, like you mentioned with the bond, it will be basically a temporary property tax. Once all that infrastructure is paid off, that goes away.
Yep.
So
not a long-term thing. I mean, it could be a few years, right? It could be, 10, 15 years in some cases, but it does go away once that's paid off, and the infrastructure is in place now that benefits really everybody.
And speaking of bonds, there was one toward the end of the meeting that the council's talked about a bit. I don't know if we've mentioned on the podcast, though, a bond for capital projects. What's the context behind this and what was passed last night?
Right. This is a difficult subject. It really is. I think it's kind of the city had some obligations based on some previous master development agreements. These are things we were contractually obligated to pay for. And again, just like we just talked, things are, sometimes when we collect a fee, it doesn't, by the time you go to build it, it doesn't pay for, you fall behind based on, with inflation or whatever, costs have gone up. But so we've had so many obligations committed to, we had to finally just say, we need to build these now. We need to do this now so we don't keep, kicking the can down the road. So it's not an increase in taxes at all. This is just, we pay for it out of general fund, which these are projects we would have paid for out of general fund anyways, but now we're just slowly paying for them over, with this bond. We're getting them done now, paying for them over, it's weird to feel like you're in debt. Government just operates a little bit different. You almost have to operate in debt a little bit with bonding like this. But again, we're in good financial position to handle this bond. It just gets some of the roads caught up we needed to get done. 6400 West is on there. A few others are on there that just we need to get done. So we're going to get it done now. We'll pay for it, but we'll have more revenue down the road too because we can get these in. So.
And I want to restate something that you have already said. This will not be an additional tax. You're not going to see it on the ballot.
Right.
This is something the city is going to basically absorb into its current budget.
Right.
Something, again, the city council's talked about for a minute, but so now there's a bond to pay for these projects, but it will not result in additional taxes or anything like that.
And these are fairly common in government. It's weird I think for a lot of us, when you get in this role, you take on debt for 20, 30 years, sometimes it feels backwards, but that's just the way governments operate because things are just have to get done now. Anyways, it's just necessary and hard, but a good step for us.
And one more thing we want to touch on from the city council meeting was a budget amendment for the Herriman City Safety Enforcement Area and for Herriman City. There are a couple of different technicalities that we had to go through, a couple of different meetings with the same people wearing different hats.
Right.
But one of them was the hiring approval of 2 additional police officers. What was that all about?
So that was, if you'll recall, last year we had to take it's a tough step always we had to raise taxes on just the police, on our safety, on public safety property tax that we issue. That was to fund a couple of officers. That funding doesn't kick in right away, right? That takes a few months to kick in by the time property taxes hit. So, and we wanted to make sure we actually needed it because I love that this council has this approach. It's not just the cost of hiring them. The one time it adds an ongoing expense too. Every time you add, there's vehicle expenses. There's, there's expense behind having additional employees. So, but we felt like with the growth we've seen, it was time to add a couple of officers to help out in the city. So we took that step last night and approved 2 new officers, and they'll be on the street pretty quick.
Yep.
So
there are other items in the city council meeting. We won't go through all of them. A lot of budgeting technicalities or things like that. But those are the major points. Yep. I want to touch on 2, since we missed last week. My bad. The Night of Lights.
Yes.
Was a lot of fun. And the drone show seemed to be pretty popular too.
I have heard, I missed it, right? First year I've missed this in years. It was hard we were out of town. But I have heard so many comments about the drone show and just the event in general. But another amazing event. Again, packed house out here in front here. And another amazing event. Yeah,
it was fun. We weren't really sure how the drone show would go. We were trying to tell people about it just to see how interested people were, and they seemed to like it. There's one of the images that just spelled out Herriman, and everybody cheered. So that was kind of fun to have some community pride there.
I love that.
But yeah, fun event. I was sick. I should not have been there. My wife was absolutely right. I came, and Scott Munson, the director of IT and communications, saw me. He was like, I don't know if you should be here because I was sick, but I was here and I paid for it. But It was fun. It was a great time.
Yeah.
Now we're in the Christmas season.
Yep. And I think there might be a drone show now. Town Days. We're looking at it. It might be. It was pretty popular, so we're talking.
Stay tuned.
Yep.
A couple of questions that people have sent in over the last couple of weeks. We want to hit two of them.
Okay.
So, again, we're behind. And two very interesting questions.
Yep.
The first one, didn't actually get a name on this one. So we'll just say anonymous. An article just came out. This was maybe a week and a half ago now. It was a little bit of time has passed. And,
Right.
and those in this neighborhood are certainly familiar of this issue. But this person sent a question. An article just came out on KSL.com talking about the South Valley Rock Products quarry permit and how they plan to add a large gravel mine to the quarry, hearing the plans for the South Hills development, and how Juniper Crest, they're just hearing about the South Hills and Panorama developments and about Juniper Crest Road on this podcast. How is this mining operation still underway, kind of considering Juniper Crest Road and Panorama, and just kind of asking if that gravel mine is going to affect the timing of Juniper Crest Road, Panorama, if it's going to disrupt the things that the city council just approved.
Right. And to be fair, that was the first question we asked when we heard about this. And we don't want to get into what happened with, we don't know. I mean, that was outside of our purview. We heard about it when the residents heard about it. So, but the first call we made was to the developer to be sure that things were still in place. Our understanding is still they are excavating to grade to build that road. So it's still moving forward. As people know, we've talked about it. They can't build any homes anyways until they can't have anybody in the homes until that road's finished anyways. So it's at their best interest, as our best interest, to make sure that that is still the case. So, and all the parties we've talked to, still, that's the understanding, is that we'll not delay this at all. Things are still moving forward. We're trying to figure out the permit stuff with the mine still, but still our understandings will not change that at all.
Yeah, and when we say that road, we're specifically talking the end of Juniper Crest Road, which is a major road up there, up on the hillside. It has a dead end right by the Sky Ridge and Greystone neighborhoods, and you can see Mountain View Corridor from there.
Yep.
Having lived there for 2.5 years, you can throw a rock and get to Mountain View Corridor, but it takes you 6 minutes to drive there.
Right.
That connection will be made.
Yep.
We're being told by the developer, and they agreed to this, one of the very first things they do with the Panorama project, and they're telling us next year.
Yep.
So you'll see movement there, and we understand that the owners and operators of that gravel mine area are in cooperation with the Panorama developer.
Yes.
Fair
Correct.
to say?
Yep, that's fair to say.
So the city can't control the exact time, and we can't say, hey, you have to start this in February or March. But we're all kind of an understanding that that's not going to delay Juniper Crest or Panorama.
Correct. Yep.
The other question was from Christian. This was sent, I think, last week.
Right.
Does the city leadership actively participate in state meetings about maintaining the Great Salt Lake's health, or do they apply pressure to the state and or federal government to do more to keep it safe? I'm worried about how safe it will be to live in Herriman and the rest of the valley in general in the future due to the drying lake. It seems to be in the city's best interest long-term to express a voice in the matter.
Yep. Great question. I love that. Christian's always, I see him on social media. He's always active in this space, in the bike space, make sure we've got bike lanes. He's a very informed resident. I love. Thanks for the question, Christian. Active to say we're on a committee? No, we're not. I mean, we can't just jump on a committee. But I will give Councilmember Orrin a lot of credit. She is very active in this water space. That's her passion. She was on the Jordan Valley Water Board until recently, but she speaks up at every single meeting expressing concern about water in the valley in general, but expressing ideas about how we can get water, even runoff from this area into the Great Salt Lake. So we've put ideas out there. I think we're all concerned about that. None of us sit on any of those committees. They tend to be the municipalities that are closer just by nature, but very active in those conversations. Sherry especially is, and she'll continue to be in that space for sure. But priority for us, yes, we talk about it. We're in those discussions. So yes, I would say yes.
And one of the things that every resident can do to be I guess pun intended here, a drop in the bucket toward the end result is water conservation. We as a city talk about that a lot every year. Some people probably get tired of it. We as a city are trying to conserve water better every single year, and we see that residents are doing the same thing.
Right.
The more water we can get eventually to the Great Salt Lake is better for our ecosystem in general.
Yep, 100%.
We're not going to be the experts to talk about that and break it all down, but that is something like a lot of people that we keep an eye on and kind of root for everybody to do their part. And, we'll see how it goes, but there are a lot of people actively working on that.
Yep, absolutely.
So, okay, my voice is about shot, so
Let's wrap this up then.
There. Yep. Try to avoid coughing attacks. I think I'm going to edit all of them out of the, the final video. My water is running out too. So anyway, thank you, Mayor Palmer, for being here, especially after late night.
It's all good. Love it.
And an early morning.
It's all good. Best part of my week. I love this.
Thank you for listening and watching. As always, send us a question in a comment or an email. Most people seem to like to email us, which is great. Leave a review too. And if we get more reviews, that gets the podcast in front of more Herriman residents so they can be more informed. And we've said this before, we're not trying to do this for more fame or exposure or certainly no profit, but we want residents to be informed, and people seem to like it. So leave a review if you can.
Love it.
Okay.
Appreciate it, John.
We'll talk to you next week. Hopefully I'll have more of a voice left. It's starting to hurt a little bit. So thank you for listening and watching, and we'll catch you next time.